Yes, there are still shortwave radio stations that verify reception reports. So this video is for those shortwave listeners who like to receive QSL cards and letters. Several years ago I saw what has to be one of the worst examples of a reception report sent to a shortwave broadcast station. It was both pretty funny and at the same time quite sad. I stumbled across a copy of this report sitting on a website of a major shortwave broadcaster. Now, I have concealed the identities of both the station and the listener concerned. But have a look at this. See if you can make anything of this. Hello, and I just thought I'd give you a signal report in exchange for a QSL card. Radio used, Grundig Eaton Micro Satellite 750. Date and time, February 26, 2018 at 5:22 p.m. Eastern Time. Frequency, redacted to kilohertz, shortwave wide and not shortwave narrow. Report, I heard you okay. You had a lot of static on you, and you were fading in and out. At the time of the report, I was using an external antenna called an ST2. I got it at 20 dBi/4 signal rating. Please send QSL card to... So let's go through line by line the problems with this reception report. The first sentence doesn't address anyone in particular. It just gives a hello and a very quick outline of the deal the writer wants to secure. A signal report in exchange for a QSL card. Talk about getting straight to the point. Radio used, Grundig Eaton Micro Satellite 750. What is this listener referring to by including the word micro? Date and time, February 26, 2018 at 5:22 p.m. Eastern Time. So the time expressed here is for the Eastern US time zone, rather than in Coordinated Universal Time or UTC. Now the station is not a US broadcaster, so the person attempting to answer this listener's letter has to go off and calculate the time zones in order to work out when the broadcast was heard. And we don't accurately know the date of the reception. Was it in UTC or was it in the Eastern US date? Now it was probably the US date, but we can't be sure. Also, we can probably assume that the time provided in the letter is the start time, but we are not told when the writer completed the listening session. So, for how long did he listen to the station? 1 minute? 15 minutes? 60 minutes? Frequency, redacted to kilohertz, shortwave wide and not shortwave narrow. What does that mean? I suspect it's referring to the bandwidth filter that was used. The Satellite 750 has a wide narrow switch option. However, would a non-technical person in the office of the radio station reading this listener's letter know this? Moreover, what is the purpose of listing the filter bandwidth here? And he doesn't say what the bandwidth of each filter is anyway. So to the station, this is not a particularly helpful piece of information. Now we get to the substance of the report. So, let's take this apart bit by bit, not that there's much to pull apart. I heard you okay? Right, so that doesn't tell us much. You had a lot of static on you and you were fading in and out. Yes, this is a widespread occurrence on shortwave. It's the nature of the medium. Again, it doesn't tell us much. At the time of the report, I was using an external antenna called an ST2. Now, we have no idea what this is. I would expect that the person reading the report would not be familiar with this antenna either. However, I have a sneaking suspicion that the writer may be referring to a Magnum Dynalab ST2, which is an FM antenna. But who knows? Anyway, in a well-written reception report, the antenna description is usually listed with the radio description, not as part of a signal report. I got it at 20 dBi/4 signal rating. Okay, So, aside from the appalling grammatical error of I gotta, when I think he means I got you, or even better, I received your signal, the way he has written this is not clear at all. It is also quite likely to be unclear to the station staff member unfortunate enough to have to be reading this reception report. Perhaps the writer does not want to use the SINPO or SIO codes, or doesn't know about these codes. Then in that case, a much better written description is needed of the reception quality, any interference from other stations, and so on. Please send QSL card to... This half statement could be interpreted as, I have fulfilled my end of the deal by providing you with this crappy reception report. Now it's up to you, Radio Station X, to come up with the goods at your end. This sentence is tantamount to a simple demand for a QSL card. This reception report doesn't contain any description of the programs heard or even a simple station identification. How do we know that the writer was listening to this station? The answer is we don't know. Did he even turn on the radio before writing his letter? We don't know what language this listener was monitoring in the broadcast. We could assume it was possibly the English service, but we don't know that for sure. This particular station broadcasts in many languages. The writer does not comment on whether he enjoyed the program or not. He offers no feedback about the broadcast's program content. This is a shame because carefully considered feedback helps the station to target its programs better to the interests of their listeners. The writer tells the station nothing about himself. He offers no personal insights into his background, age, music tastes, why he listened to the station. Doesn't say if he's a regular listener or anything else. Broadcasters are very interested in the profiles of their listeners. It helps them to develop a variety of programs that will inform and entertain their listeners. So, from what we have just uncovered here, this is quite a poor reception report. It is highly unlikely that this station would have found anything of value here. At best, it may have taken the listener around 3 or 4 minutes to put this report together. However, and here we come to the nub of the problem, he wants the station to send him a QSL card at the station's expense for printing, and by the traditional mail method, more expense, which would be filled out by a paid station employee, yet more expense. Is it any wonder that so many broadcasters no longer respond to listeners' letters? Who could blame them? I have chosen this letter as an example of how not to write a reception report. Studying someone else's mistakes can, hopefully, remind us what not to do. Here are several other tips that you should consider. If possible, try to include observations over 2 or 3 days. Why? If you are a regular shortwave listener, you will know that daily variations regularly occur in reception conditions. Continuous monitoring is far more valuable than a one-day, 5-minute burst of listening. Reports that are less than 20 minutes long are of less value to the station, especially if the broadcast is, say, a 1-hour service. Propagation conditions can change radically during a listening session. Give the station as much of your monitoring time as you can on the broadcast. These days, the design and construction of shortwave receivers is quite high and comparatively even in quality across the manufacturers. However, the types of antennas can vary significantly, which will, of course, affect the reception quality. There is a big difference between a short, compromised inbuilt whip antenna and the multitude of external antenna types. Spend a sentence or two describing your personal antenna setup. It is up to you to decide whether you want to describe in words what the reception characteristics were like, or if you would prefer to use the SINPO or SIO codes. Now, I have done a YouTube video on this very topic, so see the link in the description below. I have also written an article about the advantages and disadvantages of using SINPO. So you may want to follow up on this in a post called The Use and Abuse of SINPO. Check it out at my blog, the Mount Evelyn DX Report. Again, I'll put a link in the show notes below. It is essential to spend time giving the broadcaster valuable feedback about their programs. Doing so can significantly increase your chances of receiving a response from them. In his excellent article, Writing Useful Reception Reports, Jonathan Marks offers some great ideas on how to provide better feedback when commenting on programs. Although it was written in August 1991, the same ideas are just as relevant today. Check that out too in the description below. There is a fair chance that the person at an international radio station who reads your reception report may not be completely conversant or skilled in your own native language. English may well be the reader's second or third language. So, poor grammar and slang have absolutely no place in a letter or email to an international reader. Take time to write well. The very same broadcaster that I've been talking about today also published on their website a letter from another listener who said, and I quote, "I would like to have QSL, 2018 calendar, stickers, cap, latest promotional items and keyring confirmation of this report." In other words, this guy wanted a truckload of stuff delivered to his address, for which he sent a rather third-rate reception report. I was surprised the listener didn't request a kitchen sink and a free ticket to Hawaii as well. Finally, treat the station with respect. Treat the station staff as your friends. If you can build rapport, you can get results. 73 and good DX to you all.